What's up? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of 3 Point Stance presented by Mountain Dew. I am Meghan Triplett. That is John Roser. And it's time to get you our stances on all the latest that happened from the weekend. And let's start with the NFL. I know there's a game tonight, Monday Night Football, but when you look at what's happened so far in week two, we woke up this morning always talking about the NFL injuries and the impact that is having, and some big bad losses between the Falcons and also the Lions. When you look at week two, who after week two is probably kind of like having a more of a bad week, or who's probably going to be impacted the most between the losses and the injuries?
The Atlanta Falcons have to be really disappointed because it's just with their defense, because that offense puts up yards and that offense puts up points. Calvin Ridley has been a breakout star through 2 weeks of the NFL season for the Falcons. But to become the first team in NFL history to score 39 points, not have a turnover, and lose, teams were 440-0 previously in those situations. Obviously, my team, the 49ers, our whole team is hurt. George Kittle's hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt yesterday. Raheem Mostert got hurt yesterday. Nick Bosa tore his ACL yesterday. Solomon Thomas tore his ACL yesterday. The entire team is falling down. They are falling fast, and it's a very tough division. The NFC West is. On the other hand, the Seattle Seahawks have to be very happy with the 2-0 start. Russell Wilson, I said it on Chris Vernon's show last week. I do believe he's going to win the MVP this year. And I know some people say it's crazy to talk MVP after 2 weeks. Mahomes got his 2 years ago. Lamar got his last year. Russell Wilson's going to win the MVP this year. And it is my opinion, because I've watched him terrorize my team, I think, and then people are going to disagree, I think Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Ooh, a big stance. I'm not too far behind with you, but it is week two. So I'm just going to hold off a little bit. We got a big game next weekend for Monday Night Football when you get to see Patrick Mahomes take on Lamar. That's going to be the game. And maybe I might get on board to see what happens with the MVP. But you mentioned talking about who's in the worst case scenario. I got to say maybe the Jets. If it couldn't get any worse, I think maybe you just got it happened, especially because you mentioned your 49ers, and there were so many different losses in that game, and so many injuries in that game that went down. The Jets, that was their moment. That was their moment to potentially come out, and we all thought, hey, the Jets, you can capitalize on this. They're falling left and right, and the Jets still not able to get it done. You walked away just thinking like, okay, I think now is a moment where we're like, what's going to happen with Sam Darnold? What's happening with their coach? Where are they missing the mark? And then also the Lions. I mean,
the thing with the Jets, you can't name 5 Jets players after Sam Darnold.
I can't.
Like, that's the thing. Like, it is like you think about that, and it's like, who do they have? Le'Veon Bell got hurt too. Yeah, like the Jets. You're right. The Jets. Woof. They're bad.
they're bad, and it's just week two, which is even crazier that we got so many more games to go. All right, well, let's now switch over to some NBA action. The Lakers and the Nuggets Sunday night. There's so many things that you're flipping your channel back and forth. And just as soon as you thought the Lakers had a double-digit win, here comes the Nuggets, being the Nuggets, the comeback of the second half. But Anthony Davis just ruined that moment, was left pretty much wide open, got around. I'm not sure what happened on that Denver Nuggets last play. Anthony Davis hits the buzzer-beater game-winning shot. What was your stance on watching that game?
I mean, look, it's not the first time we've seen a miscommunication between defenders in our last-second shot. You remember the Toronto-Boston series when OG Anunoby hit the buzzer beater that got Toronto back in the series, and they were about to fall down 3-0. We saw defensive miscommunication between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on that one. So it's not the first time we've seen miscommunication on defense in these playoffs. It was an amazing shot by Anthony Davis. It was a big-time shot. And him and Jokic down the stretch they look like the 2 best players on the court. And probably you could say they look like the 2 best players in the world down the stretch in that game. Denver was right there. And Denver's going to look at it like that. Like, look, Anthony Davis hit a great shot, so they won the game. And it's not like Denver has not been in this situation before, so the Nuggets aren't quitting.
No, they're definitely not quitting. Yes, they're down 0-2, but they have been this comeback team. And Denver, a lot of the players have said it. Like, they play the best when their backs are up against the wall. Now their backs are up against the wall against a superstar Lakers team, and you can see what the Lakers have been able to do out there on the court. If you're the Lakers, you're also saying, how did we blow that double-digit lead? We should not have gotten it down to the last second to a game winner. And you need a LeBron to have a moment. You need Anthony Davis to have his shine. You need the supporting cast like Caruso and Davis Caldwell-Pope. You need all that with this Lakers team. For Denver, you're so close.
They're right there.
They're right there. I don't.
I mean, game one. Let's be real. Game one, they got screwed by the refs. They got screwed completely. And if you're the Nuggets, that's the only thing that really worries you in this series is that when it comes down to it, you probably know the Lakers are going to get every call. If it gets to a point where you get to a game 6, game 7, that's one thing you worry about. It's down the stretch. You know the Lakers are going to get every call from the officials.
And first of all, it's not just that for that game 1. I mean, this team has played game 7 after a game 7, and now you look at the Lakers had a lot of time to rest to get ready for this matchup for the Western Conference Finals. So that's a factor too. Now you're at the point of does Denver have enough gas to continue this push? Because you're going with this Lakers team, you're going to need to have it in the first half and the second half, not just the second half. You can't just come out and say, okay, third quarter, fourth quarter, we'll push. You need to have it continuously because the Lakers, anybody can get hot. And let's know if a LeBron and Anthony Davis are hot at the same time, that's some scary something to think about right there.
I'll so about that.
I'm still picking the Lakers. What about you though?
I freaking hate the Lakers. I don't want them to win, so I'm going to say Denver.
You hate them so much you can't even say their name that they're going to win.
Yeah, I don't want to. I seriously, I have no interest in seeing the Lakers win.
Oh, okay. Well, I know what someone that you did have maybe some interest in seeing was the U.S. Open was this weekend. There's too much for me to watch, so I missed it, but I've heard there's a lot of hype over the guy that won the U.S. Open and what that meant. So break it all down to me and why this is a big victory for him.
Yeah, Bryson DeChambeau, his first career major. He's one of the more kind of known as one of the villains on tour. This dude drinks 4 protein shakes every morning. He is, if you look at a picture of him from last year and compare it to this year, I mean, he has beefed up big time and he's taken his game to a different level. He drives the ball farther than anybody else does. He drives it freaking 370 yards. It's insane. And that's what he was trying to do. He majored in physics at SMU. They call him the scientist because he thinks so much about everything out there on the course. But that was a dominant performance we saw at the U.S. Open. 6 under par on a course that absolutely tore the other players up in the field. Matthew Wolff finished second, and he was even par. So he won by 6 shots. No other player after that was under par at all. Matthew Wolff, second place at even par. Every other player was over par. Bryson DeChambeau, that was a dominating performance at the U.S. Open. I think the other thing that we've seen, because I know it got some news, is Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods both missed the cut. And I think, Tiger is 44 now, and Phil is 50, 51. And it really is just the sign of, it makes me feel old because I remember watching these guys grow up and just be dominant at majors. That both of those guys, they're not good enough to win the U.S. Open anymore. They don't have the game to win it. The U.S. Open is the ultimate test in golf. They try to make the course as hard as possible. They don't want players shooting under par, which is what's crazy. DeChambeau winning at 6 under par. They don't like you shooting under par there. They design the courses so you can't, or they try to make them as hard as possible. But both of those guys, there are courses they still can't compete at, and tournaments they can still compete at, but the U.S. Open's not one of them.
So what this could mean for the Masters, that's pretty big because that's in November, and when you look at the performances that some of these golfers had, the Masters coming up, probably a lot. You have some time.
Oh, you would have to say DeChambeau is going to be the favorite to win the Masters too, because there's no rough. There's basically no rough really at Augusta. It's not bad rough, and this dude hits it farther than anybody. And so even if he gets in trouble off the tee and doesn't hit it in the fairway, he's still going to be in a situation to get himself out of it. And like I said, he hits it farther than anybody else. So he's probably going to be the favorite to win at Augusta.
Wow, it's crazy to think that we have a lot of new names that we're talking about during these time, a younger group of golfers that are leading the way. And now it's time for us to learn some new names. Like now I'm like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him before, but now I know your name, putting some respect on your name. All right, Roser, that's all the time we have for this edition of 3 Point Stance presented by Mountain Dew. Same time, same place next week. We'll be back to break down all that was from the weekend.